Hello, friends. John Sears here, your friendly lean guy and Microsoft aficionado. And today I want to talk to you about a topic that's really near and dear to my heart in root cause analysis. As a continuous improvement guy, I love talking about root cause analysis, and we're really going to get into it today, talking about not just root cause analysis, but also a lesser known tool in the Microsoft toolbox, Microsoft Whiteboard. So thanks for joining me for another session of our project management training in 365, and let's get into it. So by the end of this training, what we're hoping is that you can articulate why root causes and analysis is valuable, as well as a couple of different ways you can conduct a root cause analysis. And then we're going to demonstrate exactly how you can do that in Whiteboard. So first, let's talk about root cause analysis. What is root cause analysis? So by the term, it's for getting to the root cause. It's a method for considering the nature of a problem. A lot of times our instinct when we're trying to solve a problem is, all right, this is the thing that's broken, so let's fix it, without questioning why the thing is broken. If the thing is going to break again, in what ways is it broken? Is the fix going to be sustainable? These are the vital questions that we use to get to the heart of what's really going on. Context is valuable to any challenge, and sometimes the right answer isn't always obvious. And it's human nature to deal with the thing that's right in front of you. And sometimes that's not where the problem is. And if you think about it in terms of fighting disease, we don't want to be treating symptoms, we want to cure the disease. And that's where root cause analysis comes in. So, first, before you could even begin with the root cause analysis, when you're trying to solve a problem, you want to focus on getting the scale of that question right because you have maybe a certain capacity to deal with a problem, um, and you might have a certain tolerance for how much time and effort you want to devote to it. And there's different ways to zoom in or zoom out of a problem, and it's by asking questions. If we want to zoom in, so if the problem that we're trying to solve is too big, we can find different nuances of it and see if we can zoom in on just an aspect of that challenge. So if we use where, so where is it a problem? Is it only a problem in certain areas, or is it worse in certain areas than other ones? When? So when is it a problem? Is it only a problem during our peak times, or is it a problem all the time? How? So how is it a problem? Is it a problem for certain types of people? Is it a problem in certain circumstances? And where? When we ask who, when, where, or how, we're focusing on different aspects of a question. If we want to zoom out because the question seems, okay, is this something more serious than we're looking into? We can ask why. And when you ask why, it can reveal a perspective on a scope of work. And why is a very powerful phrase when you're trying to right size a challenge. And in fact, there's an entire tool dedicated to asking why. And we can take a look at something called the five whys, which is asking why basically a bunch of times. And we can do it with an example. It's apocryphal, I think, but it's still very powerful and still sticks with me even many years later. So our problem is pretty straightforward. One of the monuments in Washington, D.C. is deteriorating. And if you've heard this before, which monuments it is might change. And it doesn't even have to be a monument in Washington, D.C., but we have a we have a monument that's deteriorating. All right. So because we're good at root cause analysis, we're like, okay, it's deteriorating. We ask ourselves, why is it deteriorating? Because harsh chemicals are frequently used to clean the monument. And a lot of people might stop there. If you stop there, you say, okay, the harsh chemicals are breaking down the monument, so we need to use different chemicals. And maybe that's good enough. But if you are inquisitive, you might ask another question, which is, well, why do we need such harsh chemicals to clean off the large number of bird droppings on the monument? Okay, so birds are our primary cause of this mess. So let's get rid of birds, right? Well, why are there so many birds? There are a large number of birds because the population of spiders around the monument are a food source to the local birds. They're being attracted there by a bunch of spiders. Now, if you know anything about spiders, you might say, okay, well, why are the spiders there? Because vast swarms of insects on which the spiders feed are drawn to the monument at dusk. Okay, so why there? Why are there a bunch of spiders there? Why are there a bunch of insects being drawn there? And it's because the lighting of the monument attracts local insects. And that's really insightful. And all we did was keep asking why, just like my 5-year-old. So instead of changing the cleaners, building elaborate contraptions to stop birds or bugs, all we do is we change how the monument is illuminated and we deal with the swarming insects. That's why it's so important to ask why. Sometimes, however, it's not linear. There's not a single contributing factor on a singular aspect for us to point to and go, why, and get to a root cause. Sometimes it's many contributing factors, and that's where the Fishbone or Ishikawa diagram comes in handy. It's only a slightly more complex version of the 5 whys, except it reflects the fact that there are several different aspects and it allows you to group them together. Now, there are two main ways that the Fishbone diagram is used. You can use it either in the generic case, where you cite a main problem, and you will have your contributing factors. So what are the causes of it, or what are the categories of causes? And then list off sub-causes within each of those categories. If you'd like a little more guidance in the way you do your fishbone diagram, you can go sort of the 6M method, and you might see different selections for what words we use for those. But in idea, they are manpower, machine, method, mother nature, measurement, and material. So basically, what is the human component of this problem? What are the facilities and equipment contributions to this problem? What are the processes at play that might be contributing to this problem? What are the supplies and resources helping or hindering the problem? What are our quality control issues? So how can we measure, or are we measuring at all? And then the environmental factors. So it can provide you in some cases a facilitated exercise, or just as an individual go through and think through all of the contributing factors to these problems. Instead of just asking why over and over again, you can pinpoint and move around. Each one of these causes then becomes a checklist of action items. We got to fix this, we got to fix this, we got to fix this, we got to fix this. Because sometimes real world problems have complicated many-fold causes, right? It's rarely just by fixing a thing you solve all the problems. And so this allows you to get at various aspects of those. And this is what we're going to be covering when we do our demo. One other area where I really want to highlight, and this is sometimes the hardest sell if you're trying to solve problems and during project management or just any problem solving exercise, is Pareto analysis or data gathering. If you're familiar with Pareto, you might have heard some reference to the 80-20 rule or something along those lines. But the basic idea is, all right, so, something is wrong. There are defects with a product, or, form submissions are bad, right? You start with a general problem, but then you measure it over time. And that's what makes this such a hard sell, is because saying not only are we not going to fix the problem right now, we're going to take a month, 6 months, a year to look at what are the contributing elements to it and categorizing them to figure out what are the biggest contributing factors. It's not enough to know, all right, so we're getting a bunch of calls because we're dealing with this complicated project. What are the nature of those calls? Let's count them up over the next 3 months and say, all right, we've got this many calls dedicated to this particular aspect of the project. We've got this many calls associated with this particular project. And then we sort them and we do a cumulative percentage of how much is going on. In this example right here, we've got types of errors discovered during a surgical setup. Very quickly, when you sort the list of contributing factors to those errors, wrong supplier is by far the most common error. Excess count, too few, wrong size, wrong instrument set, missing item, damaged items, or other. Some of these might be more in your face. If an item is missing, that can feel really bad, but if your overall goal is to cut down on errors, your effort should be focused on the wrong supplier because that's where most of your errors are coming from. It really helps us pull our head out of the uh, non-data driven world and really focus in on what does the data say we should be looking? What does the data say we should be spending our time? Because that's really, really, really useful information. The problem is it can often be a really hard sell, but it's usually worth it. And sometimes it can be a real shock because you weren't expecting those results. So root cause, again, all about getting to the bottom of it, not just dealing with a symptom, but being sure you're dealing with the problem itself and making it better over the long term. 5 whys, Fishbone, Pareto, all extremely powerful, all extremely useful. Now, let's go ahead and get into the demo. So for our demo, we're going to be covering, I think, a hidden gem of the Microsoft package, and that's Microsoft Whiteboard. Whiteboard itself has come a long way, I think, in the last several years. It used to be fairly simplistic and sort of felt like just a cheap little add-in that really didn't measure up to a lot of the other whiteboards that were broadly available, like Miro or even Zoom's whiteboard. Um, but they've added a lot of features recently, and we're going to be talking about one of them that we're going to see right here. First, we'll talk about how to get here. So if you are on 365 and you're anywhere in the ecosystem and you've got access to these 9 dots, you click those 9 dots and you should be able to find Whiteboard. If you have to explore all your apps to do it, you can do that. But you can also get there at whiteboard.office.com and you'll be met with a page that looks a little bit like this, where you've got an option to create a new whiteboard, or you can hop into one that is already existing. And we're going to go ahead and start a new whiteboard. So it'll look a lot like most of the whiteboards you've probably seen if you've ever done any online collaboration. So your control bar is down here. If you have access to Copilot, it'll be down here and can actually do some pretty cool stuff with ideas and suggestions. You can do a lot of the things you normally do in whiteboards. So, adding sticky notes, scribbling, want to move around, we can. But I want to draw your attention to the ellipses here, more options. And in particular, we're going to head right for templates. You'll notice some other options down here. So images, documents, loop components, videos, and links. I might talk about loop components in a future video because loop components really let you grab elements from different places within 365. If I want to grab a loop component, basically a checklist of videos that I have, and drop them in here from a OneNote that I've created, I can do that here. So integration with loops, pretty neat. I might cover that in a different video, but for now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hop on templates. So now there's a good amount of templates here, not as many as some of the other systems, and I think a fairly simplistic selection, but a serviceable one, especially since today we're going to be using the cause and effect diagram. Cause and effect diagram is basically another word for fishbone or Ishikawa diagram. You can either preview it here, but we're just going to go ahead and use the template. If you preview it, it'll show you sort of what it looks like. We'll go ahead and use that. And then you can kind of click where you want relative to the stuff you might already have. So you might be having a wide-ranging discussion using Whiteboard, and you're like, all right, I think we've had a lot of discussion about this particular topic, and I think we really want to get to the bottom of it. Go to templates and pop it in. So navigating this is relatively straightforward. We just go ahead and grab the hand and we can move around. And when we're ready to add something to it, you see it is the more general form of the fishbone where we might have our problem right here, and then we can outline some effective categories here and then just start typing. So um, if we're taking a look at, we're looking to improve the numbers on my channel. All right, so let's talk about our audience. Let's talk about content, right? And we can further break down these elements. Or we'll take a look at the audience. We'll say, all right, so the audience is not being alerted to these videos. Like and subscribe if you want to be notified when, click the bell if you want to be notified. So maybe I should be telling people um, to click the bell so that they're notified when new videos come out. So um, not notified. And we can go through and maybe we're doing a brainstorming exercise with a bunch of people here, or maybe we're just going through as an individual and trying to sort of sort our own thinking as we try and dissect this problem. And we can further break it down, keep moving around. There are lots of ways to copy, delete, add comments, especially if you're trying to collaborate. You can use Whiteboard to collaborate, and it doesn't even have to be in a synchronous environment. So you can share it and have people access it lots of different ways. You can add external content through that. Um, and Whiteboard is really, really powerful for that. And we can go ahead and give it a name, and we'll say video breakdowns. That's really all there is to it. It's come a long way. I think it's still got a ways to go before it is meeting the kind of experience that you get from some of the fancier whiteboard systems out there. Um, but it is quite functional, and I'm really liking it. And I was excited to see this template here. I thought I'd share it all today with you. So if you are enjoying these videos, go ahead and like and subscribe. So I feel inspired to keep doing what I'm doing because I do it for the love of sharing my unique combination of Microsoft and Lean expertise with you guys. And have a great rest of your day.